Hello, my name is Jarryd. I'm sure each of you have your go-to coffee order, and chances are you probably have committed to memory the order of your partner, a dear friend, or maybe even a loved one. Now, I want you to cast your mind back to the most memorable cuppa that you have ever had, one that truly nourished you. For me, my own coffee order is a long black with no sugar. I think that sugar ruins a perfectly fine coffee. I take my tea white, and my favourite beverage of all time is actually a Milo. And in quite a scandalous way, I have 4 heaped teaspoons, don't tell mum, that is 1 more than the recommended amount of 3. Now, I can tell you the details of my favourite drink, my Milo, not because that's important to me, but generally because of what's associated with sharing a Milo with someone else. So, I want you to now cast your mind, as I mentioned earlier, to that moment where you had that perfect cuppa. When I think of my most memorable cuppas, something is consistent across all of them. Generally, the solo ones don't rate very high. This is the cup of coffee on my commute to work, it's the cup of tea before bed. These are lovely, but admittedly, they are mildly forgettable. The ones that really stick with me are the ones shared with someone else. So these are some great examples would be the cup of coffee with someone that you've not seen in years, or the cup of tea that you have with a friend who arrives at your house unexpectedly with good news. It might be the hot chocolate shared around a campfire while camping out in the bush surrounded by mates, or maybe it's that Milo served out of that massive silver vat on Year 7 camp on a cold winter's evening. It's that moment shared with others that is truly special and profound. If you consider your own memories, I assure you that you would agree with me, that those moments shared with others are something sacred, and that they stick out and remain with us. In all of these memories, the drink is not the star. It's that opportunity to connect with others that truly shines. A simple cuppa can be a doorway into a deeper conversation, an opportunity to provide support, to encourage your friends and your peers and your loved ones, or it's an opportunity to simply spin some yarns and create some stories together. The same can be said for meals. Across generations and cultures, we have gathered to celebrate milestones, whether it be a wedding, whether it be a birthday, promotion, anniversary, first date, religious celebration, you name it. We gather around the table and share. Sharing a meal is never about what's served on the plate. It's more about who you are serving. When we sit at the table, we're invited to share in each other's lives, to pass bread, share stories, laugh, sometimes even cry, and walk away nourished. Not nourished physically, but nourished socially, emotionally, and spiritually. This is the true essence of companionship. Companions are those who walk alongside us on our earthly life. They share in the joy and the sorrow, in the struggle and the success, in all that is living and in all that is past. They share in that. They glimpse the parts of our lives that we often keep hidden and don't reveal to the greater world. True companionship calls us into a deeper state of love. And I don't just mean that romantic love. I mean familial and friendly love as well. Companionship can enrich all that is offered in our relationships. It's no accident that when we think of companionship, we see the power of it presented in our stories, our commonly held stories. One example I want to share with you actually comes from Star Wars. So if we think of our heroes and the successes they have, Luke, Leia, Anakin, they wouldn't be able to do it without their companions. Without Chewie, Han, C-3PO, R2-D2 or Captain Rex. They just wouldn't be able to win. Even Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn, the wise mentors, could not see it through to the end. At critical moments, the heroes don't just lean on a teacher, they lean on each other. And oftentimes, it's actually the companion that might find success or triumph, not by wielding a lightsaber or commanding the Force, but by simply being there, by being a steadfast and loyal friend and companion. These stories remind us that triumph is not just about strength. Triumph is not just about the skills that we might hold. It's about having someone at your side when the going gets tough. It's all about sharing that burden of life, because going alone is no way to go at all. The very word companion comes from a Latin root, com meaning with others, panis meaning bread. So it literally means those you break bread with. So the real reason we gather is not just to share a meal. That's only the excuse. The reason is the connection, The reason is the storytelling, the laughter, and the support that we can share. To gather around, to break bread, to break stories, is otherwise known as commonality, that sacred act of gathering and breaking. But here's the key. We must be attentive in these moments, free from distractions of phones, television, work, things that would otherwise take us away from being totally invested in that moment. Also that we can truly respond and be attentive to the needs of the other. That attentiveness turns these ordinary moments, these ordinary times, into sacred times. Think again about your own experiences and memories. Maybe you might consider how a simple dinner or a simple cup of tea has turned into a moment that you treasure, something that you depend on in tough times. Maybe it's because someone was able to lend you a listening ear, or that you were able to be that support for someone else. For some reason, that is important to you. This is something I often see in my work as a youth ministry coordinator. We take students away on retreats and create a space where they're able to come together to share meals, conversation, thoughts, concerns, joys. And we take them away from their regular school routines. Again and again, participants reflect on the experience and they report back to us that it's those moments of a shared meal, the moments of downtime, that they're able to truly connect with their peers, to form genuine bonds, natural bonds with each other. And we just wouldn't be able to achieve that kind of connection in a classroom context alone. One retreat in particular remains with me. A young person who was traditionally quite reserved and a bit quiet had really opened up at a mealtime. Something about that simple act of having food in hand and a conversation with another allowed them to have the courage to open up and reveal that deeper aspect of themselves. Afterwards, they said it was the first time they'd felt truly seen and recognised by their peers. That is the power of commonality. That is the power of true companionship. Beyond my own work, I'm inspired by social media influencers such as Will from A Mug of Life. He goes around to parks in the UK and just finds strangers sitting on a park bench and offers to make them a cup of tea. And it's incredible what he's able to achieve in a matter of minutes, just by pouring that cup of tea, asking someone what their preference is, how many sugars, do you have it with milk, whatever. And then they start talking about things like life, death, grief, joys, success, and they really get to the heart of the matter. Another person that inspires me is Andrew from Tough Yarns. And his big stick is trying to entice people to take a dip in a freezing cold New Zealand lake in the middle of winter, all with the promise of a fresh towel, a warm fire at a nearby cafe, and a warm cup of coffee in the hand afterwards. And the whole purpose of that is to ask the really difficult questions surrounding mental health, and being able to cut through those barriers just through that simple act of offering someplace warm, whether it be a physical place or the symbolic place in the form of that coffee. Really inspires me to think about how I approach commonality and companionship in my life. Is this something I reserve for my friends, my family, my loved ones? Or is this something that I should open up and offer the stranger and the neighbour? It is those moments of connection, veiled behind that simple gesture of offering a cup of tea or a meal, that can become profound encounters for us. Moments where people are able to speak heart to heart, without the usual noise or blockages or things that get in the way of our day-to-day that usually inhibit us from connecting authentically. All of this points to a vital ingredient in our social dimensions. That if we aspire to have relationships that are found and built on trust, respect, deep listening, genuine presence, and a mutual care for each other, we must consider the role of companionship and commonality in this space. Companionship does not just enrich us, it can sustain us. It is something that can aid us in our life journey. And if we can extend that same care not just to our friends and our family, but to the stranger and neighbour, we might also be able to equip ourselves and those around us to better persevere through the struggles ahead. Because we do not want to face these challenges alone. Definitely not on our own, but together. Thank you.